I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 184, The Hidden Cost of Happy Wife, Happy Life. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are going to be talking about the saying that I'm sure you've all heard, happy wife, happy life. You've probably heard it many times. Today, we're going to debunk it, talk about why it's not a great statement, and what's actually better. If you have ever subscribed to this thought that happy wife, happy life, stick around. You came by it honestly. Maybe you modeled it. Maybe you thought that that was the best thing. If I could just get what I want, if my husband would just do what I want, then I'll be happy and all will be well. Or if you are on the other side of that, if you're the husband and you tried to just make your wife happy and it has backfired, this episode is for you. All right, before we dive in, I want to say thank you for all of you who have been going in and reviewing and rating the podcast. I appreciate it so much. I love being able to offer this podcast for free. I don't have any kind of payment coming in whatsoever for this podcast, and I record an episode every single week. One thing that you can do that helps me to be able to continue doing this is go in and rate it, leave a 5-star review, and go in and actually review it. It just takes a minute or two. You can change your name on it so it's private, so no one knows it's you. It's very easy, and it helps tremendously in growing the reach for people who need this. Lets people know that this is a place to listen, to dig in. So thank you. This is something that you can do for me. I appreciate it so much. And you're then doing it for all the other people who have yet to find this podcast. So thank you so much. All right, let's dive in. Happy wife, happy life. Okay. How many of you have ever shut your mouth, bit your tongue, stopped talking to avoid a fight? Shut it down. Like, I don't want to fight, so I'm just not going to say anything. And then later on, you feel even further away from your partner. So you're already feeling uncomfortable. You were going to say something, decided not to. And then later on, you feel even more distant from them. This is a symptom of this kind of thought process of just keep it happy, keep it surface level, and everything will be just fine. It's a lie, okay? This phrase, happy wife, happy life, we're going to be talking a little bit more about where it came from, but it has become culturally accepted as solid advice. You see bumper stickers, you see t-shirts, like people praising it like it's this super noble thing of, look at me, this is the kind of spouse I am, happy wife, happy life, right? And it often is delivered with maybe a smile or a smirk, but with serious implications. Behind this phrase is often a relationship full of suppression, resentment, emotional distance, people-pleasing, and false harmony, not peace. This happy life is not actually real. It is pretend. So, first of all, where did this come from? It looks like, in doing preparation for this episode, that this phrase came out and popularized in the 1950s to the 1960s during a time when gender roles were quite rigid and quite stereotyped. It became a defense mechanism or a coping strategy rather than a real, practical, useful, healthy strategy. Just give her what she wants and we can all get on with our lives. Look at what I've given you. Look at the life I've given you. What do you have to complain about? Okay, so going back to those days, the 50s and 60s, at that time, it was more common for women to be home, right? To be home with kids, to be taking care of things on the home front, not pursuing careers, but being provided for. And so in that way, it could be said, look, I've provided all of this. Look, you don't have to work. Look, I've given you such a comfortable life. You should be happy, right? And in reality, what we know now is how many women were just kind of dying a slow death, and how many women are still dying a slow death, and how many men are as well. It goes both ways. What this really implies, and part of why it's so dangerous, is because the statement happy wife, happy life implies that the emotional well-being of an entire household rests solely on one person's happiness. Have you ever heard the if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy? Right? I'm sure you have. What this means and what this teaches the family is that we're all here to prop mom up and to make her happy, not to upset mom. And as long as mom's happy, we can all be okay. We can all rest. We are all fine. This creates a lot of issues. The man's role here becomes that of a peacekeeper or an appeaser, not an equal partner. And the woman's role becomes emotionally overburdened. If she is the thermostat for everyone's mood, that's a problem, right? It means she's not allowed to have emotions. She's not allowed to express sadness or frustration or even anger. And nobody likely asked her if she wants that responsibility, right? Part of the problem is that it trains people, especially men, to avoid conflict rather than engaging in repair. It subtly encourages dishonesty and emotional withdrawal. I'm just not going to say. I'm just not going to talk about it. Or I might dip my toe in it and see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, I'm never going to say anything again. Okay? Real partnership isn't about keeping someone happy. It's about mutual truth, respect, and resilience. Now, I want to talk about something that I see sometimes with my clients. Sometimes I do have clients where on either side, the female side, the male side of things, in those traditional roles, that one or the other might speak up and might want more, might want better connection, want to work through things, go get help, things like that. And often if the other person becomes really unregulated in that request, the person asking shuts down. The person asking says, oh, this is too scary. Never mind. This person's never going to listen. And what I see is that sometimes that person withdraws, and that person then sometimes has people that are interested in closeness and intimacy and talking and giving and receiving, and they can step right into having affairs. Okay? It goes both ways. It's not just people who are trying to disengage from relationships that have affairs. Sometimes it's people who have desperately tried to engage, been met with seemingly a brick wall, lots of emotion, lots of shutdown, and their way of coping with that is going in other directions. They often don't plan it, that they're going to go cheat. Sometimes it just happens and they feel something that they haven't felt for a while, right? All of this is a recipe for disaster for everyone involved. Real partnership isn't about keeping someone happy. It really isn't. It's not. It's about mutual truth, respect, and resilience. Nowhere in there is the word happy. Okay? Where happiness comes from, where real peace comes from, is when you know that there's real mutual truth, respect, and resilience. Emotional resilience, emotional bandwidth between each person, emotional maturity. What this happy wife, happy life encourages is dishonesty and emotional withdrawal and breaking down of trust. I can't tell the truth here. I can't say how I actually feel. Happy wife, happy life is often just a cute euphemism for fear-based silence. It's like, we're going to put this cute little bow on top of this and we're going to pretend like this is good, when right under the surface is a lack of courage, a lack of truth-telling, a lot of fear. Not good. All right? All right, let's talk about the cost of avoiding truth. So many partners adopt a mentality that is, don't rock the boat. Conflict becomes something to dodge. not a signal of something worth exploring. Okay, I want to talk about this piece a little bit. How many of you, when you are looking at a situation, maybe it's with your spouse, maybe it's with a family member, where you know that there are some things that you're feeling unsettled with, you want to talk about it, but you know that it could turn into something that feels like conflict, and so you don't bring it up. A little mindset shift here that can be so beneficial is going, what if that feeling of fear, like that there's something here, and you are putting it off. What if it is a signal to pay attention to, that there's something here worth exploring, that this relationship matters enough to tell the truth? Some common dynamics are, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to upset her. He's not honest with me because he's afraid of my reaction. We don't fight, but we don't talk about anything important either, right? And the second one here, he or she is not honest with me because he or she is afraid of my reaction. You know what? This can be a real issue. If somebody has something honest to say, even if they're saying it in a very respectful way, if the other person takes it personally and starts on the defense immediately, it's not going to create a space for the other person to want to come back, to want to try that again, right? It requires both people to grow their own emotional maturity, to go, oh, this is so uncomfortable, and I care about my spouse and want to hear what my spouse has to say. So I'm going to manage all of this anxiety and shame or whatever comes up for you inside and hear what my spouse has to say, right? What this leads to, these dynamics, is politeness over passion. Everything stays nice, but there is no spark. There is no spark. I'm going to be talking in the future a little bit more about the importance of polarity in relationship, the yin, the yang, the masculine, the feminine. This kills it stone dead. Politeness kills it stone dead. It kills the spark. There is no masculine leading out. There is no receiving from the feminine side of that masculine strength. It's just kind of this platonic, dead feeling. And I want to be clear here. This is not necessarily just between men and women. In any relationship, in any romantic relationship, no matter the gender, this feeling of polarity, traits that are a little bit more seen as masculine, traits that are a little bit more seen as feminine, really people being who they are in those ways, that is what creates this amazing polarity. That is that opposites attract fire, okay? Politeness over passion kills it dead. Pretending over presence kills it dead. This means each person hides their real feelings to maintain false peace. This is not sustainable. You will suffocate. You will suffocate. You will know it. It will get to a place where you cannot tolerate it, okay? You can have parallel lives where two people are functioning side by side. They might look like they've got it all, but they no longer are actually sharing life emotionally or spiritually or really in any way other than just kind of going through the motions. Okay, these are the ones that you see around town or at church or wherever that look like they've got it all together. And in reality, they're really good at the image, but they often have no emotional relationship at all. They each stay in their corners, right? Please know that peacekeeping is not the same as peacemaking. One silences truth and the other invites it. Peacekeeping silences truth. Peacemaking invites it by telling the truth. Okay? All right. Now let's talk about codependency and how this shows up in this kind of dynamic. Codependency often disguises itself as love, care, or devotion, but it's rooted in fear and emotional fusion. It looks like doting. It looks like caring. Often a lot of accolades like, oh my gosh, look at how much that husband does for his wife, vice versa, right? But it's rooted in fear and emotional fusion. Codependent dynamics look like one person sacrificing their truth, their needs or boundaries to maintain the other's emotional equilibrium. It looks like the relationship starting to revolve around one partner's approval, moods, or avoidance of conflict. Sometimes somebody will not go talk to that person because they know that they will spiral, that they have no emotional maturity, that they will spiral for days, and that they're going to be punished for it. So they stay silent. Intimacy gets replaced with caretaking or managing the other's emotions. Because by managing the other's emotions, they don't have to then deal with their own, right? If you are walking on eggshells, you are not in intimacy. You're in survival. If you're listening and you know that you're walking on eggshells, this is not real intimacy. This is survival. What are some of the consequences of this? A loss of self-expression, quiet resentment building over time, burnout from emotional overfunctioning, and sometimes overfunctioning in many ways. Maybe there's lots of ways you're overfunctioning. A false sense of control that ultimately leads to rupture, sometimes through emotional shutdown and sometimes through affairs of somebody saying, I got to get out, I need to escape. Okay. What does true intimacy require? True intimacy is not built on silence or appeasement. It is built on vulnerability and truth-telling. Healthy intimacy looks like mutual honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, that each person is doing their own work to become the kind of person that can manage their own reactions, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Emotional ownership, meaning this is what I'm feeling instead of you made me feel this way. Permission to disappoint. This means trusting that you can tell the truth and your partner can handle it. All right? This is a huge one. Trusting that you can tell the truth and your partner can handle it. Sometimes we tell each other things that are disappointing to the other person. I said I would do this. I forgot. I didn't do it. I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you. I know you're disappointed. This is what I'm going to do to make it right. Okay. This is honest telling the truth of things that do come up in relationships, and trust that the other person isn't going to freak out and fly off the handle and yell and scream and make you suffer for days, right? I want to remind you here that conflict is not the enemy. Conflict is not the enemy. Disconnection is the enemy. Conflict is saying we're engaged. I care about you. Let's talk about this. Let's get to the bottom of this. Even if we're messy, even if we don't even know how. What is actually really dangerous is disconnecting, pulling away, each going to their corner, going back to that pretend space. Okay, fighting fair, speaking vulnerably, and learning to repair builds trust, not erodes it. And so many of us have it the other way around. What does fighting fair mean to you? As you're listening, what does it mean to fight fair? What do you think? To me, as I think about fighting fair, I think, like that expression, don't hit below the belt. Like, we don't need to get ugly. We don't need to call names. We don't need to call in every instance over the last many years that we've been together of times that something happened that hurt me and sling it at the other person. Okay? Fighting fair means sticking to the issue at hand, talking about the issue at hand. It doesn't mean not sharing hurt, right? You listeners, you got some big hurts, right? Infidelity is probably one of the most painful experiences of your life. Okay, so we're not tiptoeing around that. That is the reality. And part of this is speaking vulnerably, telling the truth. And I'll tell you what, for those of you who are navigating staying or going, this is part of how you're going to know is, can I tell the truth? And can they manage their response to my truth? You need to know this. You need to know this, because otherwise you keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing until you can't anymore. And there's often a big explosion. Okay. Intimacy is built in the moments where truth is spoken and still held. Isn't that beautiful? We can still be held by the other person, even when we are sharing a hard truth. It's built in the moments where truth is spoken and we are still held. All right, a better model, honest partnership. We're going to spend the last few minutes talking about that. We're going to dismantle, we're going to dissolve the old narrative, happy wife, happy life. We're going to dismantle, always keep him happy. We're going to dismantle avoiding upsetting him or her at all costs. Okay? The better alternative that maybe you want to tattoo on your arm, I'm kidding, but that you might want to write somewhere so that you remember it. Honest partner, resilient relationship. Honest partner, resilient relationship. I could add more. Life-giving relationship. Thriving relationship, right? Emotional maturity from both sides explodes a relationship in the best way. Choosing truth over false peace explodes a relationship in the best way when both people are committed to it. Creating a culture where disagreement doesn't threaten the connection is everything. How many of you feel like if you have a disagreement, your spouse might stonewall you, might not talk to you, might threaten their connection to you? This is not love. This is immaturity. This is immaturity. What works better, so much better, is both partners creating a culture where there can be a disagreement, you don't have to agree, and you're not threatening the connection, where it can be done in a way that's respectful. You can take a timeout, you can take a pause, but it's still sharing your concern and care for that person, even as you care for yourself. How does one do that? There are relational skills here that make this work. One, differentiation, the ability to hold on to yourself while staying connected. Several episodes ago, you can go scroll through. I did a episode called Differentiation. It's all about being able to regulate yourself, learn how to regulate yourself, especially when you're not in an agreement with somebody. Okay, you can still stay with yourself and stay connected to the other person. It means emotional regulation. Speaking needs without blame. These are things that I need. And I'm asking you to meet me here, but we're not blaming. Listening with curiosity instead of defensiveness. Okay? The goal is not to never upset your partner. It's to build a relationship where truth can flow and love still holds it all as a solid container. Okay? This container of love where truth can flow through freely. That love is big enough to hold it. Even in the ugly, even in the uncomfortable, even in the terrifying. Okay? All right. To recap, happy wife, happy life often creates dishonest, disconnected, codependent dynamics. It goes both ways. Okay? If we were to substitute in happy husband, happy life, this is where I'm checking all the boxes. I do all these things. I take care of the kids. I make good food. I do this and this. What's your problem? You should be happy. Look at all the things I'm taking care of. Look how many things I'm managing for our home. What more could you want from me? How could you want more? Look at all the things I'm doing where there's not the real connection. There's not the real truth telling. There's not the real, I see you, you see me. And we're choosing each other. And both people involved likely feel very, very empty. True partnership is built on truth, differentiation, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. All right, so my invitation for you is to reflect on where you might be choosing peacekeeping over truth. I want you to ask yourself, what conversations am I avoiding in the name of harmony? What conversations am I avoiding in the name of harmony? And where might I be choosing peacekeeping over truth? And I'm going to add one more question here. And what is it costing me? How much is this costing me? Okay. All right. Thank you for being here today. I hope this was helpful to you. I invite you to go check out the show notes where you are going to find a brand new class that I just put out. It is brand new. I've been teasing about it for a couple weeks now. It is ready. Go jump into it. It's going to go into much more depth about the choices we make around staying or going, deep, deep dive into this topic. You will leave with clarity around where you are, around where you want to go, and what the gap is for you. You'll know what the gap is, and you'll know what to do about it. All right. Thank you so much. Check that out in the show notes, and I will see you next week. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.